Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. Today I'm really excited because we're going to start what might end up being the biggest project that we've worked on so far since I started streaming. I don't know, in May. I think I started streaming in May. So today's stream is going to be dedicated to making some decisions before we actually get started. So may not actually be doing some coding, but this is an important step that we haven't really gone over before. We've made some decisions in the midst of coding, but the things we talk about today and end up deciding on will really steer the direction that this project goes. So I just want to start out by letting you all know what the end goal is for the project and what are some of the requirements that we're going to need, and then we can check out our options. I'll switch it up to the normal view with the really small camera of me in the corner, and then I have a Trello board set up which I'll eventually convert over to some issues in GitHub. Alright, so one more thing by announcement. There will be 2 streams today. This first stream is going to be out this project. It'll be on the freeCodeCamp channel. I'm going to stream again around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to give a guest lecture. I'm going to be a guest lecturer in a computer science course here at the university that I teach at. So I will be talking about the work that I do here that you all participate in the stream, and also I'm going to give some advice to how to search for jobs and coding, how to improve your skills, and I'm going to talk about some of the latest technologies that seem to be trending now, and then I'm going to take questions from the students and from all of you. So if you're interested and you have an opportunity, I know those of you in India, it'll be the middle of the night or early morning, so it might be hard for you to make it, but if you can make that stream, I think that'll end up being on my personal channel, so check the link in the description for that channel. I didn't know I was going to be guest lecturing until this morning. I didn't really have time to check with Quincy to see if he wanted something like that on the freeCodeCamp channel, so I'll probably be streaming it from my phone in the classroom, and I'm really excited about this. I think this will be cool. Alright, so let's get to this project. Let me tell you, first of all, we did talk a little bit about this project a few weeks ago. So for some of you, you may remember a bit of this. But I now have a date when this project has to be completed by, which we didn't have before. And it's going to be somewhat of a tight deadline. Not for us. I know we can get this done. But in terms of all the other decisions that have to be made by people at the university, higher up, content decisions and things like that, it's going to be tough. So this site needs to launch before March 6th, 2018. Alright, so I'm thinking let's try to get this site completed in about 3 months and then do some testing and get this launched. We're redoing completely from the ground up. I'm talking hosting, servers, all the back-end code, new content management system, new databases, certainly new front-end. Everything's going to change for this website. And this is a site that currently has over 3,000 pages of content on it. It gets millions of views a year. So by far, it's going to be our biggest project yet, both in terms of size of the website and the number of users that we need to be able to support. Okay, now, having said that, the site itself is not that complicated. At least for now, there are no forms. We don't have to handle any form data. There's not going to be any user login. So that takes out a lot of complexity. We're going to have data coming in from multiple sources. So we're going to have to handle that. It's not just going to be one content management system. It's more likely that we may pull in data from different sources, but we should be able to handle that. The site has to be SEO friendly. So we're going to need server-side rendering. We're going to be making API calls for all our content. Search engines will not wait around to display what comes in through the API calls. So we definitely want, whatever we end up going with, we're going to use React. So that's already decided. We're definitely going to use React. We have, I certainly have the most experience with using React, and so I'm going with that. But pretty much everything else is up for debate. All right. So here's what I'm thinking right now. So we have content management system will be WordPress, unless we can find a content management system that's suitable, that's based on Node. I would love to have JavaScript all the way, front end, back end, in the CMS, everything. That's going to make it so much easier to maintain and to find people to hire to work on this when we just need somebody who knows JavaScript, as opposed to trying to find somebody that knows PHP and JavaScript. WordPress is PHP based. Okay, so probably WordPress, but I am open. I just currently don't know of an open source, free Node CMS that is at that level. I mean, nothing's going to be at the level of WordPress in terms of the community that it has, but in terms of user friendliness for the people entering data, it has to at least come close to WordPress to consider switching. So that's going to take some serious thought, but we don't have to worry about that right now. We can certainly begin developing the site before we decide on the CMS. So that's something that can hold off. We could test some things out. Let me see. Let me switch over now to my list here in Trello. So sorry you won't be able to see my face full screen anymore. I know you might be disappointed by that, but that's definitely a joke, by the way. I'm not. I don't really think that. Okay. Oh, we got a lot of viewers right now. I just looked over at the analytics, so there may be some new people watching. If so, welcome. This is a little bit different than what we normally do. Normally we do a lot more coding. Today is more planning, but we'll get into some coding, in future videos. Probably the next one we do, we'll actually start setting this project up. Let me. You know what? I'm going to have to remember to periodically look over at the live chat. I haven't been doing a great job. So let me give it a little look here. But while I'm looking at that, if you can see the screen, you can see some of... Let me go down to some of our questions. Here we go. So let me read off a few of these questions we need to talk about. I'll give you a minute to kind of think about it while I catch up on what you all are saying in the live chat. So we need to decide on a UI framework. So I'm talking about, are we going to use Material UI? Are we going to use some other framework? I already know what Harshit's going to say. He's going to say no way for Material UI, but I'm open to suggestions there. Only thing is, it has to be material design friendly. What are we going to use for testing? I'd love to have this thing 100% fully covered with testing. So I'm going to need help with that one, because if you all have watched before, you know I'm not really great with testing. So I'll rely on your advice for that. And then whatever we choose, I'll learn it and we'll do it. Should we use Redux? May not be able to make this decision right away because we'll have to see where the data is coming from, how complex it is. So we may hold off on that a little bit. We can certainly develop a lot and then add in Redux afterwards. So in terms of the UI, we can probably build that all out without having to worry about Redux. What CMS should we use? We've talked about that. And where am I going to host this? Are we going to use DigitalOcean? Are we going to use AWS? What are we going to do? And here's the thing. Right now, there's certainly a ton of URLs that are being linked to from elsewhere. Do we want to keep the URLs? I'm thinking yes. I would hate to have all those links break. But then if we are going to keep them, what's the best way to do this? How do we set up our routing structure to be able to best match up our site with the old URLs. I don't know that we'll be able to keep all of them. Things are going to change, but if we can avoid breaking a lot of inbound links from elsewhere, then I'd love to do that. Okay, I do have a phone call coming in. I think I'm just going to let it go to voicemail, and because this isn't going to be a really long stream. I do have a meeting to go to in about an hour. So, all right. So think about all those for a minute, and I'm going to see what you all have already said about these in the live chat. Okay. So Harshit's recommending we should use Gatsby. So if you're not familiar with Gatsby, Gatsby is comparable to in the same class as Create React App, Next.js. It's like a way to scaffold your React app. Okay, and they all come with pros and cons. So we'll have to consider Gatsby. I have not used Gatsby personally. I've used Next. I've used Create React App. Haven't used Gatsby yet, so I'll consider it. But I mean, I'm tending to lean more towards things that I'm more familiar with. But if there's something that's clearly better, I'm open to learning it. But given our time frame too, we have to be reasonable about that. Let's see. Hey everybody, a lot of people are saying hi. Hey, welcome. Let's see. Okay, Harsh is recommending use draw.io for planning. Actually, it's not a bad idea. I think I may do that. I'm probably not going to do it right now, but I'll check that out after the stream. Yeah, and there's definitely, Harsh says, yay, more PR opportunities. There's going to be so many opportunities for you all to contribute, both in the planning stages and in actual pull requests. So I don't expect anyone to contribute. I'm not asking for contributions. I realize your time is very valuable, but I definitely welcome contributions, and I appreciate them very much. So if any of you would like to build up your GitHub profile a bit and would like to contribute to this project, I really, really appreciate that. And there's going to be plenty of work to do. Okay. Okay, we got a recommendation to use React Materialize for the UI. Alright, I'll check it out. I've checked it out a while ago, and it wasn't really up to what I needed at the time, but I'm welcome to check it out again. Semantic, we got Bootstrap, Semantic UI. Okay, we can check those out. We just need to find some way to easily use material design styles with those. So I'm open to going with something that's not material design related by default, if there's some easy way to kind of add that on. Okay, Harshit says if we use Gatsby, we don't need to use Redux. Okay. Let's see. We have Bulma, which is another UI framework. Let's see. Okay, so we have some suggestions for hosting. So we have suggestion of AWS. Because of the traffic that we're getting this site, that may be the best. Let's see. All right, I got a lot of stuff coming in. So how about let's do this. Let's start writing in some of these suggestions here. So let me zoom out a bit on this. This is Trello, by the way. If you're not familiar with Trello, it's kind of nice to be able, in this case I'm using it like a Kanban board, but it's nice to help plan out the project. So let's go with the hosting. So let's just throw in AWS as an option there, and UI framework, we got a lot of options. So I'll zoom in as well here so y'all can see. Let's make this a checklist. How about that? And then we can check things off once we rule them out. That seems like it'll be the easiest. All right, so material UI, we had Bootstrap. And I'm going to shorten these. Like, obviously, I'm not going to use plain old Bootstrap, right? I'm going to use the React version of Bootstrap. So some repo that's taken Bootstrap and turned it into React components, right? Same way with like Materialize, right? Basic Materialize is not for React, but there is a version for React. Bulma, what was the other one I kept seeing? Semantic. Okay, I think that's everything I saw. Let's see. Actually, you know what I want to do as well? Since I didn't have this up here as something to check out, but let's see. Let me just call this. Should we call it framework? For lack of a better term, I'm going to call this framework for now, just so that we can have a list to go by, go through some pros and cons. And let's go with create React app, Next.js, and Gatsby. Is that how you spell Gatsby? I think so, but it just looks weird to me for some reason. Yeah, that's how you spell Gatsby. Okay. Let me scroll through just a bit, see if I missed anything. Okay, here's another good thing that we haven't talked about yet, but we should think about. Database. So it depends really on what CMS we're using, because if it's WordPress, you typically use MySQL with WordPress. But if we end up going with some other content management system, potentially we don't even have to use anything that's SQL based. We could use MongoDB. We could use whatever we wanted. We could go with Couch. Anything really. So I'm not sure, but that question is going to be tied into the CMS. So the answer is basically we're going to go with whatever database is best suited to the content management system that we choose. So I think we can put that question off until we decide for sure on a content management system. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like Gatsby has a very similar routing system to Next.js, which is good because I'm familiar with that. I definitely need to be able to use, I think, React Router on top of it to do some custom stuff. I can see that being somewhat necessary later on down the road, which I think that shouldn't be a problem. Gatsby has GraphQL already built in, which is wonderful because I do want to use GraphQL. We're going to talk more about that in a minute as well, so keep that in mind. If anybody's familiar with GraphQL, please stick around because we have somewhat of a dilemma with where our data is housed right now, and we got to fix that before any of this can really happen in terms of populating what we build with content. All right. Okay, Rob is asking, what's the best place to go and find out about getting set up to do pull requests? I've never used React. I guess let me know. You can ask questions here in the live chat, or you can send me a message on Twitter or wherever. First, I want to know what is your experience with GitHub and pull requests in general. Have you done that before and just never done it with React, or have you never done a pull request before with GitHub at all? Once I know that, I think I'll be able to help you out more. I just kind of want to know where we're starting at. But I definitely welcome pull requests from anyone, even if you're not familiar at all with it. I'll try to help you out. If it needs changes, I'll try to suggest changes to you and really help you to be able to make a good pull request. All right, so definitely welcome. I very rarely turn down a pull request. Always try to get something useful out of each pull request and merge it in. So if you're looking to get your first pull request merged, this is a great place to do it. Not only in this project, but any of the other projects that we've done in live coding with Jesse. So keep that in mind if you're new and want to get something on your GitHub profile. All right. Michael Lee says, Jesse, you are the best. We love you. I love you all too. Thanks for saying that. I really do. I look forward to this stream every day. I really love it. Let's see, kind of static site. Okay, so Amon is saying Mongo will be good. Honestly, I would like to work with Mongo. I've never worked with Mongo before. I think it would be cool. It just kind of depends on what ends up being the best to use with our CMS. Oh, okay. Also, another plus for Gatsby, it has plugins for WordPress, so we can grab the data and pull it into that GraphQL that's built in, which means we don't have to use WP GraphQL, the plugin which we're using on another project that we're working on. So I actually have had no problems with the WP GraphQL plugin. I really like it. We had the creator of that plugin in on the live streams before, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but if we have something built in, that's also cool. Lanika asks, can you explain this project? I can. I don't know if you joined late, so I did explain it earlier, so I'm just going to give a very, very brief overview for all of you that are joining, because I can see there's a lot of viewers that have just joined recently. Let me give a 1-minute explanation just to catch everybody up. If you want to know more, after this stream's over, go back and watch the first, 10 minutes. So basically, we're going to build a React site. It's going to grab data from different data sources, content management systems and things. It's going to pull it in, and it's going to display it on a page. It needs to be server-side rendered for search engine optimization purposes. But really, it's simple. It just needs to be able to handle a lot of traffic, and it needs to be able to display data in a very user-friendly way. Obviously, we're going to go with progressive web app style, right? I think if you're building anything new, why not make it a progressive web app? But other than that, it's not going to be that much different than your typical blog, like a React blog. It's just going to be huge. There's going to be a lot more just in terms of different types of pages and different types of content that are going to need to be displayed. So, but the basic principles of pulling in data and just displaying it are the same. No login. We don't have to handle user data. We don't have to handle form data, as far as I know. Now, of course, project requirements change. I'm sure you all have had projects before where the requirements have changed at some point. That certainly can happen. But as of right now, this is what the project needs. All right, cool. Postgres. All right, I've never used that before as well, but I'm certainly open to you. For those of you that don't know, that's another type of database. Let's let's see. Thank you, pull requests. Okay, so if you remember, Rob asked a little while ago about pull requests. Rob says, I've done pull requests several times. I would say a little above beginner. Okay, great. So you're already familiar with the pull request. It's going to be the same process. And to be honest with you, even if you don't know anything about React, there's going to be other things that need done. And I'm not just talking about the typical like fix typos in the README file. There are going to be CSS things that need done. So if you know something about CSS but not particularly about React, hey, you can take a shot at that. There's going to be, I'm trying to think what else we'll need. We're going to have some Node going on, right? So we're going to write some things. So if you understand Node, even if you don't understand React, you'll still be able to contribute in that way. So there's going to be opportunities. Sometime within the next week, I'm going to create a repo for this, and I'm going to put a ton of issues in there, and then you all be able to see broken down into small chunks what needs done. And if you feel like it's something you'd really like to do, then take a shot at it. And I'm happy to help if you do need any help. Okay. All right. I'm almost nearly through a lot of the discussion now, so let me get through this last little bit, and then we'll see where we're at in terms of our questions, make sure we haven't missed anything, and start getting to some of the other things we have to decide on. Oh, okay. Dylan asked about a CMS. It's a content management system. So if you're familiar with, let's say, WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, those are really popular PHP-based ones. It's just a user interface where someone who's not really familiar with coding at all can input data, and then that data can be not just data, but usually like media, like images and things like that. They can input that, and then that can be used in a website. All right, Jesse McIntyre says, yeah, this stream is incredible, so helpful to see how a real pro approaches the project. Yeah, I mentioned this before, but I am a professional web front-end developer in terms of if you take the word professional to mean I get paid to do this. If the word pro means I'm like really, really good at my job, I don't claim that, all right? I'm just trying to do the best work that I can and learn more every day. So if I can help somebody out and learn from that, wonderful. But more often than not, I learn from you all. So I guess just keep that in mind. I will make mistakes. It will definitely happen. But hopefully we can all learn something from those mistakes and then end up building something awesome. Okay, let's see. Worlds asks, are we going to use React Native? Not right away. I'd really love to do some React Native projects that'll take some of the things that we're working on now in just regular React and then convert them to React Native. If you're not familiar with React Native, it's really awesome. I did a video about it maybe a few weeks ago. So I think if you search React Native within the freeCodeCamp set of videos, you'll find it. I believe it's the only React Native video we have right now. But anyway, React Native is a way for you to use React, write JavaScript, and then have that be converted into native code that runs on an Android device or an iOS device. So it's really awesome. So it's, if you were familiar with Ionic or PhoneGap, a little bit older technology, it was a way to use JavaScript and make apps, but it didn't. It's not exactly the same. This goes a step further, and what actually gets on the device is the actual. So I believe in Android it's Java, although I don't know. People are using Kotlin now, so I'm not sure exactly what it gets converted to. And then iOS is Swift, I believe. So the device doesn't read the it's not doing JavaScript, but you get to use JavaScript, which is wonderful. Built my first React Native app about a month ago. Really cool process. So I'd love to be able to do that on a stream. But so maybe after this project we'll get into that. Michael says, I don't understand half of what's going on, and I'm still excited. Awesome. I'm really excited as well. So I think this will be a really cool project. Let's see if you're that. Okay, cool. So in there. It looks like Harshit in the live chat is super excited to use Gatsby. So I'm definitely going to have to do my research on Gatsby after the stream today and tomorrow morning and check that out. So if anybody else has used Gatsby before, please let me know what you think about it in the live chat, or you can send me a message on Twitter. Anywhere you can find me on the internet, any social media platform, feel free to message me on there. Whatever you like the best, you can email me. If you can find my phone number, you can call me. It's out there. Let's see. Client side, server side. Okay, good. There's a good question. So what is the difference between client-side React and server-side? I've never done the server-side. This is a great question. So server-side React, I'll just take you, I think the best way to explain it would be an example. So with the server-side React, your client, so the browser, user's browser gets basically an HTML page already completely compiled, right? So the server, on the server, all API calls will be made, all the content will be there, it'll all get rendered to HTML and then sent. At least on the first load. After that, potentially you could switch over to some client-side routing just for speed purposes, do prefetching, which we'll probably do. But the cool thing about that is that search engines can see that. Now let's flip it around and only use client-side. If we only use client-side routing, what the browser gets is not the full HTML. It's just the skeleton that needs to be filled with the data. But instead what happens is the client's browser gets all the code, then the JavaScript fires, makes your calls to your API, pulls in the data, and then renders. For a typical user, that'll happen so fast, it's not really that much of a difference. But for a web crawler, right, like Google's crawler or Bing or whatever, they don't stick around long enough for that API data to come back. So all they're going to see on the page is just potentially nothing, or just the bare minimum that you already had kind of hard-coded in there. So it's never going to see the data that you want it to see for search engine optimization. So, yeah, and I just see Harshit says Google now renders JavaScript. Yeah, it renders JavaScript, that's true, but it doesn't stick around on the page long enough to render API calls. So if all our data is coming from elsewhere through APIs, it will not render this. So I did a lot of testing with this on some sites that I built a few months ago, and it is true. You can get it to render JavaScript, but not API data. So I'll keep that in mind if you're using React or any type of single-page application. If the project needs search engine optimization, you got to compensate for that. And server-side routing is typically the way that that is done. Or I'm sorry, server-side rendering. Sorry, I misspoke. Okay, let's see. Splitting, cache. Okay, so Ali says, sounds like a long-term project. How about using React Reason would be a great learning experience? I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talk about React Reason. I'm not very familiar with it at all. So, like I said, I'm very open to new things. As long as, if I'm going to switch from something I know to something new, it has to be clearly a better option, because that's going to set us back because I'll have to learn it. So given our time frame, which I'm going to say we're only going to spend about 3 months. So what's beginning in November, December, January? Yeah, I want this done by February. And then I want us to spend a whole month testing so it's ready to go by the end of February. And February is a short month, so we got to get it going. So anyway, so let's keep that in mind when we're choosing what to use, is that there's definitely going to be a trade-off. And in some cases, if the difference between what we know already and the new thing that might be better, if it's a small difference, then we're going to stick with what we know just so that we can get things done faster. Okay, I think that's a reasonable, that's kind of a reasonable plan, right? Let me know if you disagree. But if we had lots more time, then I would think differently about it. But this is a shorter deadline than I expected to have. Just found out about this yesterday after. No, I just found out about that this morning, actually. So, yeah. So about 9:30 a.m. this, I got an email, found out about this date. So, and just to explain the reason for the date. Our contract, I don't think I explained this, but the contract for our current system is up on March the 6th, 2018. So we have to pay more money for next year's contract if we still have it. But if we can get this done, then we'll save a lot of money from our contract because the current content management system there's a yearly fee for it. So there's definitely a good financial incentive to get this done, sooner. Okay, so we have a question. What are the steps to contribute to this project? You know what? We're going to have a structured contribution file in the GitHub repo. So there'll be very clear steps what to take or what to do when you want to contribute. So just hold on for that. I'll have that ready whenever I make the repo. But basically, I'm going to have a bunch of issues ready. You can pick out the issue and try to solve it, submit a pull request, and potentially, if everything's good, then we'll merge it. Or if you come up with a feature or something that you think would be really cool, and on your own initiative you want to contribute, then I'm good with that. Potentially, it might have less of a chance to get merged, depending on whether or not I think the feature is needed or not, or we should use it. So you may want to run it by me first, but I'm open. There's been a lot of times when somebody has submitted a pull request for a feature that I never even thought of, and it's awesome. And I'm more than happy to pull it into the project. So I don't have a super complicated process for submitting pull requests. So I like to keep it pretty basic so that those of you who are newer at the process have kind of a low barrier to entry and can get those pull requests in. But I'll have more details for you when we actually get the repo started, which should be maybe tomorrow. Okay, here's another question. Is it better to use Redux with React for large scalable projects? And what is the best folder structure architecture? In general, I recommend using Redux for larger projects. It really helps keep your data flow reasonable, right? It's very easy to deal with data on a small project. You can just use state. It's component state. It's fine. Once it starts to get bigger, it's really hard to pass state and props down through lots of components, and it can be a mess. Redux helps you simplify all that. So I would say in general, yes, the larger, more complex projects will benefit from Redux, but it does depend on your project. So just because you have a big project doesn't necessarily mean you have to use Redux. But I found Redux to be very helpful. Let's see. Okay, Vishal asks, what's the best way to make API calls besides fetch? I don't know if there's a better way than fetch right now. Okay, I like to use fetch. Now I know people like to use, what is it, Axios. I haven't used Axios, but maybe it's better. Here's my thought on it. If fetch is already usable, and at least depending on like client side, depending on the browser, it's already there, right? Why add in something else if it doesn't add in more functionality than fetch does? Like, keep things light, right? Maybe Axios does something that fetch can't do, but I'm unaware of that. So I don't really think I could give you a great answer for that, because I pretty much stick with fetch. I mean, before fetch, of course, we use Ajax, right? But yeah, I'm pretty happy with fetch. Okay, so Hacker UC says, what about using React Static instead of Gatsby? Okay, I am not familiar with React Static, but I'll add it to our list. And I'll have to look that up. Let's see. Pedro says Elm. I'm not familiar with Elm. If there's good reasons we should use that, let me know. Use deadline. Infamous. Sorry, I'm messing up on the name here. But anyway, it says, how will we be notified? Will it be through here or a sign-up sheet? I think the best way to notify is, if you want to get notified whenever I'm going to go live with videos, then subscribe to freeCodeCamp's channel and make sure you have notifications on for that channel on YouTube. I also tweet about what I'm doing and when I'm going to post or do a new live stream. So if you'd like to, you can follow me on Twitter, and then you'll be able to see my tweets about when I'm going to do things. And then finally, whenever I get the GitHub repo up and running, which will likely be tomorrow or the next day, you can star that repository, and then you'll know where to go. You can get, I guess there's other ways you could do it. Potentially you could follow me on GitHub, I guess, and then my activity will show up. So there's several different ways you can keep track of the project. So those three ways are probably the most reliable ways to stay up to date on what's going on. Anna Clara says, what about Sagas? Yeah, so Redux Sagas is another way to handle data flow, handle state in React. I have not used Sagas. So far, I've basically used thunks, so Redux thunk. So I'm open to using Sagas if we find that would be better. But once again, that'll be something I'll have to learn. So if you all think that would be a better thing to do, just let me know. Okay, Harshit says Axios has better API than Fetch. Okay, Axios then may be easier to use. So like I said, I've never really had a problem with the Fetch API. It seems pretty straightforward to me, but I haven't actually used Axio, so I can't give a good opinion on one versus the other. Okay. Okay, Worlds asks, on the previous projects, 1 through 4, which do you recommend to get up to speed? So if you haven't watched the stream before, this is the 5th project that we're working on now. We've done 4 projects before this, and I believe they were all React projects, right? Was it all React? Maybe. We might have done one that wasn't React. But anyway, we've done at least 3 React projects before this. So if you want to get up to speed, I would say Project 3 will have kind of the latest stuff. With Project 3, we're using React 16. We're using the latest version of Material UI. So that would be helpful. But if you want to learn more about server-side rendering, then check out Project 1. We use Next.js for server-side rendering. Just a disclaimer, we did those projects earlier, months ago. So a lot of the things we used have newer versions now. So it may not match up exactly with the latest versions. So, but obviously we can't do anything about that, right? We use the latest versions that were available at the time. So I just want to warn you all, so you just realize that you may want to check up on the latest docs and see if anything has changed. But, it's only been a few months, so it shouldn't be too drastic. Things should all, still work. But that would be my recommendation, 1 or 3 for the projects. If you have time, check out, I'm sorry, 4 is where we used React 16. Project 4 we used React 16, so my mistake. So check out Project 1 if you want to look at how we did server-side rendering. Check out Project 4 if you want to see the latest version of React and the latest version of Material UI. Okay. Yeah, okay, another question. Is it fine to create subfolders for different modules and actions, reducers, containers, components? Yeah, it's certainly fine. Folder structure is... There are recommended ways to do it, but there's certainly room for adjustment based on your particular situation and what works best for you or for your team. So I think it's okay. It's good to use somewhat of a standard structure, especially if it's going to be on GitHub and open source. You want people to be able to understand what's going on. Okay, but within somewhat of a standard structure, if you need to make some adjustments depending on what works best for you, then as long as it's not too drastic, I don't see a problem with that at all. Okay, can you post your GitHub for newbies? Okay, the GitHub... I believe I have a link to my GitHub profile in the description, but if I don't, I'll post it. So I don't have this particular repository up yet, but I will have it up soon, and I'll have the link for you ready in the next live stream, which should be tomorrow. So I'll get it to you. Let's see. How is project going to be late to the party as always? All right, so we have a few people joining in a little bit later. So Anna's here. Hey, Anna, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Albert is asking for an update about the project. Just real basic, it's going to be React, and we're going to grab data from a content management system and pull it in with GraphQL. We're going to pull that data in. We're going to render it on the server side, and we're going to create a React app, a progressive web app that is going to basically just display data. Not going to be a ton of interactivity going on, but we need it to be able to handle a pretty significant load. So that's the project now. If you want more details, go back after this stream and watch the first 10 minutes of it, and I go in more details about it. Sweetie projects. Okay, another question. What is better way to write reducers, switch in cases, or something like... When I write reducers, I usually use a switch statement. There may be a better way, but I found switch statements to be pretty straightforward, easy to read, easy to write. So I would stick with that. Okay, we got a question about the start date for this project. I'm saying today's the start date, right? This is the day we start the planning. The actual coding might start tomorrow. If I can get enough information to make a good decision about some things, then we might start coding tomorrow. In terms of design, we already actually have quite a bit of the design finished from previous projects, previous work we've done, so that's not going to be too much of an issue. Okay, let me hand out coupon codes for free coffee and donuts while watching stuff. John Hansen says, are you going to be handing out coupon codes for free coffee and donuts while watching this new project? I do not have any coupon codes for free coffee and donuts, so sorry about that. I can put little coffee emojis in the live chat every once in a while if you want. That's probably as good as it can get. So I apologize. If I could, I'd send you all free coffee and donuts, but not possible right now. Oh, okay. So we have a question about links to previous project repos. Okay, so here's the best thing to catch up on new projects. Within freeCodeCamp YouTube channel, which is what we're on right now, just check out the Live Coding with Jesse playlist, and you can see the different projects. I usually have in parentheses at the end of the title, it'll say like P1 D2, so it'd be project 1 day 2. So if you click into any of those videos, in the description it will have all the links you need to catch up on the project. So the GitHub repo will be there for sure, and then potentially a link to a Trello board or other things that we're using for that particular project. I'm in the process of creating separate playlists for each project. Project 4 now has its own separate playlist, and I'm going to get the other projects into their own playlists soon, so it'll be a little bit easier. The Live Coding with Jesse playlist has everything all in one playlist. So if you want to see everything, that's the one, but it's a lot. There's over 100 videos in there now. So we're separating them out into separate playlists and make it easier for you. Okay, let's see. Alright, so I'm going to stop with the live chat just for a minute to make sure that we've gone over these questions, and then we'll wrap this up for a little while, and I'll do a little bit of research, and if you all want to keep giving me suggestions, that's fine. We do have a Gitter channel. The link's in the description if you want to join in on there and talk about it in the Gitter channel. We have a Slack channel. If you want to send me your email address, I can invite you to that channel. And then, of course, I'm available on all the social media things. All right, so host, URLs, transfer to new database. Okay, here is a very important thing that we need to get up and running, and I need your advice for. This may not be something that we can have on GitHub, although potentially we could. But right now, we have all the data for the current website in a SQL database. What we're going to do is copy that database and then try to build an API so that we can easily pull that data out, put it into another database in the format necessary for whatever content management system that we have. So what I need then is your opinion on what's the best way to go about doing something like that in terms of creating the API. Has anyone had experience with things like that before? Is the idea just silly? Is this just wishful thinking that we can do this? So let me know, and then potentially if anybody is really experienced at building APIs like that, pulling data, let me know, and maybe we could talk more about it. So I don't currently have access to the database. I'm working with another department here at the university I work for because they have access to that database. So I'm going to get the access soon, hopefully, and then we can start working on that. But otherwise, this is going to be really hard to get the data in because it would then require manually copying and pasting things. I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that at all. It wouldn't be me. We'd probably hire student workers to do it, but that's, in my opinion, that's not really an option. There's got to be a better way to do it. So that's the way I'm thinking right now, but I'm definitely open to suggestions. All right. That was, I think, the last major thing that we needed to think of. So we've gone over all the questions. Haven't necessarily gone through all the potential answers to them, but I just wanted you all to be able to know what's going on with the project right off the bat and just kind of get everybody thinking. So let me go back to the live chat, probably just a few more minutes for this stream, and then I'm going to have to get ready for my next meeting. And then, like I said, there'll be another live stream later on today. I'm going to be a guest lecturer in a computer science course, and I'm going to talk about some advice for new coders and some of the latest trends in front-end development. That'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and it'll be on my YouTube channel. Links in the description. Okay, got a couple more questions. Okay, so Austin wants to make an API call every 30 minutes. Do you have a good way of implementing that? Okay, every 30 minutes. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know how I'd implement that for sure. If you have a GitHub repo where you have this code, please share the link with me. You don't have to share it in the live chat. You can send me a direct message on Twitter or something like that. I'll be happy to check it out for you and give you some advice. But I would kind of want to see what you're working with right now before I could give you a good answer on that. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, another question. I'm thinking of going to a hackathon this weekend. What can a beginner/intermediate front-end dev do in a hackathon? Actually, I'm going to make a confession right now. I've never been to a hackathon. So I'm not entirely sure. But I would imagine that you need a front-end dev, right? If there's going to be any type of UI for whatever you're creating at a hackathon, you need somebody to make it, right? So certainly you could do that. And I mean, I'm sure there's going to be other things as well. I mean, I'm front-end dev, but I do some back-end stuff when necessary. I do some DevOps stuff when I need to. I set up servers, so, potentially you've probably done some of that too when you have to on projects. So, and you bring another perspective. So, at the very least, your opinion will probably be valuable. Now, like I said, I've not been to a hackathon. If somebody else has more experience with hackathons, then maybe you could offer some good advice. But I'd say I definitely think you'd have something to contribute. How would you normally with your project? Okay, Vishal says, how would you normally architect your project or plan before actually starting so that you don't hit a dead end later? Okay, normally a lot of my planning is somewhat like this. It starts out with really broad categories, and then eventually this list will change, and it'll start to get really small, tiny tasks. Okay, and I estimate how long each task will take, and then I have a decent estimate, and I can then allocate a certain number of hours per week and figure out what is actually reasonable in the deadline and what features have to be pushed and be added in later. So that's roughly how I do that. I'm usually very good about meeting deadlines. There are some factors you just can't know beforehand. So scope creep, like project requirements all of a sudden changing and it's more difficult, or things just going wrong, right? You have illness, people who you need to get stuff from to continue the project aren't getting it to you on time. So I usually build in some padding, some time there beyond what I think it will take, just to account for those unknown things. But that's how I generally do projects, especially if it's just kind of me that's the one doing most of the development. If I had more of a team that worked right here with me, I would probably have a different process. There would be a lot more of scheduling around other people and what they're doing too. So it'd be a little bit more complex. But anyway, this is how I do it. I'm sure there's probably better ways to do it, and I'd love to learn about them if you all have some advice on that. But this is kind of my workflow as it is right now. Okay, Harshit says, which content management system and database is the site using now? Great question. The content management the site's using now is Ectron. So the website is franciscan.edu. The content management system is called Ectron. It runs off of .NET framework. It's on a Windows server. The database, I believe, some type of SQL database. To tell you the truth, I don't know. I don't even know for sure. what kind of database it is. But that's it. It's in bad shape. The content management system is lacking some features that people have come to expect from content management systems, and it's very tedious to update even simple things. So we've been wanting to move it to something a little bit nicer for a while now. Let's see. Okay, so why not? So it says, why not use Firebase, Firestore for database? Hey, in terms of our plan for storing data and database and stuff, I'm open to things as long as it fits all our requirements. Then I'm fine with checking out different things. Whatever is the best that we can use, that we can reasonably use for the project, I'm fine with that. To be honest with you, I have not worked directly with Firebase, so I'm not really in a position to make a decision on that right now. I'd have to do some more research. Okay, Michael asks if I can link to this board, this Trello board. Yes, I can. I'll try to make this board public and include a link in the video description. I'll try to have that ready for tomorrow. And then probably the way I'll do it is I'll just make it viewable from the public. Otherwise, it'll be crazy if everybody can edit this. But I'll certainly make this viewable. And what I'm going to do as well is once we get some really concrete to-dos, I'm going to convert those to issues in the GitHub repo. So then we can have discussion within that issue as well. Okay. All right. Here's another idea for the database. We should take SQL DOM, import it to our new database, make tables according to WordPress, move the data in them. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm open. I'm not familiar enough with databases. My experience with databases is I've done some copying and transferring of databases in the context of moving WordPress sites to different servers. So that I'm very limited in that. So I'm open and I'm welcoming advice from those of you who have more experience with databases. So and that's something that I'd definitely like to get done sooner rather than later, because it's an important piece to this. So yeah, so just let me know what your ideas are. I have some people here on campus that are database administrators that I can talk to as well. So I'm going to get their input on that and see if maybe they have a better idea as well. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about that yet. This is all pretty... I knew this was coming for a while, but I just didn't know for sure when the project was going to start and when the due date was. So this all happened suddenly. Let's see, can we join this board? Okay, can we join this board? Yeah, definitely. I'm going to make the board public soon, and then I'll have the link in the description, the video descriptions for these live chats, and then you'll be able to check it out whenever you want. This show says, I'm moving from Angular to React on a new project. I found Angular more easy to get on, or maybe it's too early to judge, but I am liking React too. Too many stuff to learn. Yeah, it's definitely a switch, but if you were able to work with Angular and learn Angular, I certainly think that you have the ability to learn React as well. It's just a little bit different way of thinking about things. So I think it will be a little bit harder at first, but if you like it and you're committed to learning it, then no doubt you can learn it. Okay. Michael says, thanks, I'm just starting and I really don't know what steps to take. For example, set up dev environment. Oh yeah, for this one where I say set up dev environment, if you're not familiar with that, the development environment in terms of basically all the things that I have running on my local machine when I'm going to do this. So that, to me at least, this encompasses everything from my code editor, my linter, transpilers, my Webpack build, which may be taken care of depending on what we go with for our framework, right? Whether Next or Gatsby or Create React App. So kind of all that is like my development environment. Okay, so a lot of that is already kind of built up and it stays the same for each project, but I do like to update in between projects to use better tools or new tools. So that's what I mean by dev environment. And we'll basically, I mean, most of the stuff on the list we'll work through together. It'll all be streamed. It'll all be live streamed. We'll work through it together. So if you'd like to learn more about any of these things, just stick around, and eventually we're going to get to all of it. Okay. Okay, so Harshit's saying that he doesn't think that we'll need to build an API to get the data out. He's thinking we could just dump the data. Since we're making a clone of the original database, there's no chance of us harming it. All right, I'll mention that when I talk to the database guys here soon. I'll mention that as well as an option, and I'll see what they think. That might actually be, they might be more comfortable with that, to be honest with you. Let's see, Vishal says, how does Redux Observable help in development? I have not had experience with using that, so I can't, I have no advice to give you there, no answer there. Let's see, a question about the Slack channel. If you want to join the Slack channel, I need your email address, and so don't put it in the live chat. Send it to me on Twitter or something in a direct message, and then I can have an invite sent to your email. So you can't just go to a link and have it work. There is a Gitter channel, and you can use the link, and it can work. It is linked in. Oh, you know what? I didn't put it in the description. I forgot. I meant to. I'm going to put it here in the live chat. So if anybody's interested in joining our Gitter channel, click the link that I just put into the live chat, and then you can join our Gitter channel. And I'll try to get that in the video description if I don't forget about it. And so that way, if you can't get to the live chat now, or if you're watching this recording later on, you'll still have access to that. Okay. Oh, okay. So we have an answer in terms of the Redux observables. So Harshit's saying observables are good for handling data streams. And then we had a question about Redux Thunk. Thunk are for async calls. Yeah, so you use Thunk when you need to make some async calls, like API calls, things like that. So I mean, that's like just really basic what they do. But anyway, Thunks were really helpful for me and really simple to learn. So if you need to make some calls, async calls with Redux, I would check out Thunk first before moving on to something else like Sagas. It seems to me that Thunk is like really basic and easy to figure out. Okay, I've gone through everything in the live chat at this point. If I missed your question or comment, I apologize. I tried to get to everything. Feel free to comment on this video if I missed it, or ask me or comment on any other social media, or just come back for another stream and ask me about it. So I'm going to end this stream in just a minute. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in the live stream. We had quite a few viewers in here, so that's awesome. I really appreciate it. A lot of activity in the live chat, a lot of great suggestions. So it's just super helpful for me. Thank you so much. And please join us back for, I really want to collaborate and have this project be like our project, and all of us contribute ideas and code and everything, and just work through this whole thing start to finish. I think that would be really cool. If you can watch later on, don't forget I'm live streaming my guest lecture and computer science course. You'll learn a little bit about front-end development, about some advice for new coders trying to find jobs and things and get experience. It will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be on my YouTube channel, so not the FreeCodeCamp channel. You can find the description to my channel in the link to my channel in the description for this video. I'll probably put out a tweet before I do that, so that you all can get a link directly to the video. And I've never done a live stream from my phone, so I'm going to try that out later. Hopefully it goes well. But the students are going to be able to ask me questions, but you all will be able to ask me questions as well on the live chat. So if you have any questions, feel free. And I'd love to see you all there if you can. If you're in a time zone where it'll be a weird time, I totally understand, so don't worry about it. Get some sleep. Okay. Let's see. Time. All right. Got through everything. Just double checking. Don't want to miss anything. All right. So I'll be back a little later on today, and then I'll be back again continuing with this project tomorrow, somewhere around 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll let you all know on Twitter, and there'll be a notification if you're subscribed to the Free Code Camp channel. Until then, have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Or later, maybe.